I'll admit it, I am addicted to coffee. Starbucks wasn't my favorite place to go, but it was more convenient and ended up spending a lot more time there. Sitting at an empty table with my hot mocha, a young guy comes over to me and asks if I minded. I didn't. I had my computer open and he sat opposite, so it didn't bother me too much. Hey, you're very attractive, he randomly says. Thanks. I didn't know what else to say. Do you come here often? He continued. There was basic small talk back and forth, me trying to give him hints I am busy, with him feeling the need to talk without catching these hints. This continued for a few more minutes before he started to flirt with me. I'm not a girl, I'm a guy. I told him that I was straight and apologized, trying to remain friendly. He smiled and stood up, brushing himself down as he walked off. His smile was creepy, but I was happy he had gone. It was raining. I got home, I put my feet up to start watching a movie. A knock came to the window. I couldn't see outside as the curtains were closed. I pretended like I wasn't there and ignored it. But a knock came again. I stood up, walked over to the curtains and peeked through. Nothing. I sat back down and heard another knock, but this time it was on the other end of the window. I got back up, checked, and still nothing. It was safe to say I was annoyed now, as I thought it was just a couple of kids knocking and running away. Thankfully, I was able to watch the rest of the film before I started to clean up my mess. I went out to the kitchen and started to do the dishes, when a knock came to the window. I chucked my head up and saw a man staring back at me with a smile. He didn't have a hood up or some kind of mask. I knew it was the man I saw back in Starbucks. I threatened him I would call the police if he didn't back away. I thought he had listened, as he did actually back away, but then a brick came through my back door window. I jumped as I turned and faced the same man trying to unlock the door. I rushed over, holding the door closed as I stumbled to get my phone out of my pocket. I'm usually not very brave, I'll admit it, but at the moment I felt like I had no choice. The man was grunting and trying to hit me, saying he will get his way with me. I dialed 911 and the man quickly pulled away. He had vanished into the night, leaving the rain come into my kitchen. By the time the police arrived, it took a report and basically left me to it, saying if he was to return, then to call them back. I stayed awake all that night, keeping an eye out as my house sat at the end of the street, which was a dead end. I boarded up the window with some thick wood and got the window replaced first thing in the morning. If anything more happens, I will let you know. I was in the queue to grab a Starbucks for myself. It was surprisingly quiet, and I'm a short girl. I saw which table I wanted to sit at before a woman who stood beside me started to become friendly. She started small talk between us. I was happy to reply though. I have been raised to always be respectful and reply when someone talks to you. She mentioned how she liked my hair and said hers were too curly to do anything with, and then asked what kind of coffee was my favorite, telling me what was hers. Small talk was something I was naturally good at though. She continued to ask what I was up to after having my coffee, and I just replied saying shopping. The truth was though, I was going to go home. My parents had gone away for the weekend, and I really wanted to make sure everything was perfect for when they returned. The woman said she was going to go shopping as well, and we should go together. I apologized and said I didn't feel comfortable with that. Just as I was about to grab my coffee though, the woman nudged into me, apologizing saying she didn't feel right, and stumbled to the ground. I helped her to a seat and made sure she was okay before grabbing my coffee and sitting down at my own table. I took a few sips, looked through my phone, replying to people, seeing what my parents were up to, and continued to drink away. The woman kept looking at me, smiling, lifting her drink up to me as if it were a toast. I smiled and went back to my phone. I started to feel a little lightheaded though. It came on quite suddenly. I looked around and got up, walking to the bathroom. I splashed water on my face as I really started to feel worse. Any second I knew I was about to pass out. I barged past another girl who came into the toilet and walked onto the shop floor. Before I can say anything though, I blacked out. When I came to, I was in the hospital and a woman police officer stood beside me. She had told me that I was drugged to a level that was dangerous to my life, and did I know who did it? I didn't have a clue. I explained my day to her, and also said I spoke to a woman who stumbled as she didn't feel too right. The police officer told me that the woman had an accomplice, and that whilst I was helping her to sit down, the other person drugged my coffee. Surprisingly, nobody had seen who it was. The camera footage wasn't working either, and had not been working for a few days. The manager was the person who did come forward and explain the whole situation to the police, saying how the woman dropped beside me whilst I blacked out, saying that she was family and that her accomplice came over acting as a stranger, making out to do a good deed and to help her out of the store with my unconscious body. Being front house, the manager had told them to leave me where I was and that an ambulance was on the way. After that, they had walked out of the shop and did not come back, without anybody stopping them. I'm a lot more cautious when it comes to leaving my drink and food, regardless of where I am or what I am doing. I'll admit it straight off, I had a stalker. I was shopping on my own, picking up a gift for my girlfriend, and decided to pop into Starbucks for a hot chocolate. It was one of my favourite drinks. It was quiet in the store, midday, and I got myself a table by the large window that looked over to the other shops. It was a nice little break from shopping, as I wasn't a big fan, and couldn't wait for it to end. But it was my girlfriend's birthday coming up, and I loved buying her things I knew she was passionate about. Now we get on to details. My stalker was a man. Tall, thin, wore glasses and dressed scruffy. I had noticed him a week ago, always following me around town. I came to town often though, so I guess he just always recognized me in the sea of people and just stuck with me. I didn't care all too much, as he never bothered me or did anything bad. Just literally following me around. As I was in Starbucks though, I kid you not, the waitress came over to my table with a fresh hot chocolate and a piece of paper. It read, "I love watching you drink. Your lips look delicious. Here's my number, text me." I won't read out the number, but I did throw the paper away and told the girl I didn't want to drink. She took it away and I could see the man out the window, literally in the middle of the high street staring at me. He waved as I caught his glare. I turned away. Minutes later, he came into Starbucks to sit with me. He said it was a good job I didn't drink the hot chocolate as he was planning on spiking it, and I should be grateful he told me. I couldn't believe what he was saying. I stood up and told him to leave me alone before he grabbed hold of my hand and said he knows where I live and will come visit me one night. I yanked my hand free and told him that I will be waiting, acting all confident and not scared as he sat smirking. I'll be honest, a few weeks went by and I really did sit on the edge of my seat, waiting for this man to come to my door. And he did. I was asleep, my girlfriend had gone home that day, and I awoke to my alarm going off at a random time in the early hours, something around 3 AM. There was a gust of wind from my window, which I hadn't opened, and I heard heavy breathing coming from under my bed. I didn't react, Didn't scream, didn't do anything. I just remained lying down and listening. I knew at that moment it was the same man back in Starbucks. I reached over to grab my phone, but it wasn't there. I noticed it was over by my computer desk. I had to get up. But I figured once I got up, he would know I knew he was there. But I had to. I carefully maneuvered as gently as possible so he couldn't tell I was moving, getting myself into a stance which would buy me the most time. It hadn't worked though. The man started to edge out before I was fully ready, and as I put my feet down, he grabbed one of them, trying to make me stay. My heel kicked him in the face, and I grabbed my phone, bursting down the stairs and out onto the street where I called the police. I live in the UK, so it was a 999 call for me. They responded quickly, and I hadn't seen the man leave. I told the police I think he was still inside, and they checked. 15 minutes later, they come out empty-handed. The man was gone. They told me to stay somewhere else for a few nights, and if he does come back, to call them immediately. I actually ended up moving away, and didn't bother going back to the house. I stayed with my parents and got them to sort the rest out.